Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the NATDA Continuing Education webinar entitled Beyond Your Website. I'm Chad Carr, and on behalf of NATDA, I'd like to welcome you. We really appreciate your attending. I think that these continuing education programs are fantastic and a great opportunity for people to continue learning and improving. And today's topic, I think, is really pertinent. In terms of moving beyond your website and working with social media, doing online advertising. I'm not going to try to pretend that I know more than our host about that, or our presenter, Jessie Greenberg from NetSource Media. She is a social media account manager with NetSource Media. She works with RV and trailer dealers around the country to help drive more traffic, not just to their website, but ultimately to the dealership. All I would say is I've been to a couple presentations in different industries in the last couple of months, and one thing I've learned is that as people go more and more to their mobile devices, the importance of social media is really increasing at a very rapid rate. People interact with their social media much more than with their normal internet browsers. So I'm going to introduce Jessie. Here in just a second. I'm going to let her take over, and I'm going to sit down and take notes myself. I hope you will too. A couple quick housekeeping things. 90% of you are listening in through your computers. All of you, we have your microphone, whether it's your computer or your telephone handset, muted. That's just so we don't have to fight with background noise, and I'm going to mute myself here in a moment also. There are ways in the webinar that you could type out a question. You'll see on your toolbar that there's a place where you could type kind of like a chat, a question. We don't really have anyone monitoring those to be able to answer them during the webinar. So at the conclusion of the webinar, we'd invite you to stick around. And at that time, if you want to ask questions, Jessie will try to address those questions. So without any further ado, we've got Jessie Greenberg, the social media account manager at NetSource Media. So Jessie, thank you, and take it away.
Thank you, Chad. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing right now, so I'm going to make this as informative and beneficial to you as possible. The title of this presentation is Why Online Advertising, Social Media, and Reputation Management Matter. Social media is something I do for our RV and trailer dealers every single day, so I really have found a good grasp of how it can benefit you, benefit your website, your dealership as a whole. So starting out, just want to talk about what advertising kind of used to mean for trailer and RV dealers, and everyone especially. So, everyone's familiar with print advertising, billboards, and newspaper ads, which are still around, and they might be effective still for a lot of people. Organic listings, that's really like free directories that you could put your listings on, and classified ad sites, of course. And then inbound links are also, they're still around. They're great for your website. That means that if somebody else on their website mentions you and puts a hyperlink, go visit this dealer, and they click it, that's an inbound link. So those are great to have. They're still good for your search engine optimization. But there's been a lot of new developments since then that we found to be very effective. One of the reasons social media is so important is because it really does help you build customer loyalty. As many of you know, it's a lot easier to get purchases from a current customer who's loyal to your brand and loyal to your team than it is to acquire a new one. Acquiring new customers can be tough. So it's really important to maintain good relationships with the people who have already purchased from you. That has to do with, reviews they leave you on the internet, even just word of mouth, what they're telling their friends can make a huge difference. So establishing customer loyalty through social media is a great thing. We've seen it improve a lot of people's reputations, get them from 2- and 3-star rankings on Google and Facebook to 4- and 5-star. So what I'm going to tell you, it all kind of focuses around that concept. So how do you get ahead as far as using social media and online marketing for your website? Now, before you even consider online marketing, one of the things you have to look at is your current website and making sure it's up to speed. The reason is you don't want to be sending people to your website if, number one, the website doesn't look good on a mobile phone or a tablet, and two, if your website loads really slowly or the images don't work, you're going to be wasting a lot of money on online marketing if you're going to send people to a bad website. So there are things to consider with making sure your website is up to speed. Title tags and alt tags and headings, those are things that Google looks at to decide how good your website is, if it's relevant to your dealership, relevant to the ads that you're pushing out to people. So it helps them establish where you should end up in search rankings, and it also helps your customers and people visiting your website navigate easier. Another recommendation is to have a good amount of text per page, which is 300 to 400 words. Not only does it make you look more experienced and show your expertise to your customers, but it also lets you include certain keywords that might be important to your search engine rankings, such as what city or what state your dealership is in. Including words like that, or what kind of trailers you carry or certain brands, can be really important in the long run. You also want to include really good quality photos and videos of all your units. As you know, it's probably a lot harder to sell something online or even get people to call you about a unit online if there's no photos there. So having good quality photos is very important, not just having some blurry ones or ones you took when it's dark out or there's bad lighting. So that is something to consider. You also want to have unique descriptions for each unit. That means not just copying and pasting from the manufacturer's site, because that creates duplicate content. So Google essentially will say, well, we've already seen that information on somebody else's website, so we're not going to give your website any credit for it. So you want to write new descriptions. Obviously, there's going to be some words that stay the same, the brand names and things like that, but you always want to at least try to put your own little spin on all of the descriptions. Some people, on the next point, they like to put a call for pricing button, and I found, especially in social media, that customers get very frustrated when they can't see a price. Now, we understand that sometimes you can offer a really low price on over the phone or in person compared to what you can advertise, but if you can at least put a base price and still say call for special discount pricing or extra discounts, something like that, your customers will have some kind of idea of what range your units are in. And the last one is having a responsive website. That means mobile responsive. So that means whether someone's looking on their phone, their tablet, or a computer, your website still shows up, it works correctly, and it's easy to navigate. So when it comes to social media, you always want to start with a strategy, and it depends on your dealership and your personality, what you're aiming for in your marketing strategy. So do you want to be trying to get sales through social media, or do you want people to just call? Are you trying to build brand awareness and credibility, or are you trying to make sure you're connecting with your existing customers and potentially new ones? It's good to have a combination of all these things, because sales are obviously an immediate impact, but things like relationships and brand awareness will really help you out in the long term. So you want to also establish goals and objectives when you're considering a social media campaign or marketing strategy. And part of that is looking at your dealership and looking at your brand and seeing what are your strengths and weaknesses. What makes you different than everybody else so that you can convey that to your customers. You have to know about yourself and what people are looking for in order to share that. You also want to really establish what your goal is with the social media campaign. I've worked with a lot of dealers, and some people love getting emails. That's their favorite type of lead is to get emails or price inquiries. Some people prefer phone calls. So it all depends on what you want, but you have to either let your marketing person know, or whoever's doing your social media needs to know that, because they can tailor the ads to try to reach those goals for you. I would say that brand awareness and customer loyalty, that should always be a factor. But as far as leads and getting your ads seen by people, it kind of depends on each person. Now, as you know, the internet changes a lot, changes on a day-to-day basis, and it can be hard to keep up with. So there are a few things that have come about in the last decade and a little bit longer that you may be familiar with, you may not be. Pay-per-click marketing has been around for a long time. You might be most familiar with it through Google Ads. That means if you search something in Google, you'll notice that at the top of the page and at the very bottom, there'll be links that say ad next to it. And those are actually ads that people are paying for. And the way that works is a business pays per click for those ads. So each time somebody clicks their ad, they're paying money, but hopefully that's giving them a lead, so that is the purpose of it. Now, we also do pay-per-click on Facebook through ads as well. And there are other types of social media that a lot of our dealers use. Facebook and Google Plus are kind of a must-have nowadays, honestly. Those are the most important ones that everybody needs as a foundation. And then, of course, there's Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. Those are all great tools. They take a lot of time to keep up, and you have to have someone who's really going to be dedicated to managing those accounts in order to be successful. But if you can have all 5 of those, you really are off to a great start. So just to go over the pay-per-click a little bit more, that is something that we recommend for all our dealers, is to use a combination of pay-per-click and social media. Oops, let me go back one. So like I said, pay-per-click is done. Google, Bing also offers it. We used to use Bing a lot more, but kind of noticed that there's not as many people using it to search. It's usually the older demographic, where Bing is the automatic search engine that pops up on their computer or their phone. But it is worthwhile for some dealers. So like I said before, you only pay when somebody clicks on your ad, which is great. That means you're not paying, just if somebody sees it, but you do pay when essentially you're getting a lead or someone visits your website. The way it works is you put in a long list of keywords that you think people are going to search that are related to your dealership, a certain trailer you have, a brand that you carry, and when people search those, then your ads show up, and hopefully they click on them because they're relevant to what they searched. You can also make sure that your ads show up on certain websites, which are called placements. So if you want to be shown on a specific blog that your customers visit, you can do that. And you can also do it by audience. So you can say, I only want to show my ads to men between ages 30 and 65. And you can do it by city or state or whatever. So you can really cater it to make sure you're spending money where you want to spend it and not just putting ads out to the entire internet. So because it does cost money per click, you set up daily budgets for these kind of ads for pay-per-click, which you can adjust those on any time you want. You can say, I want to spend $15 a day, and maybe you're getting a lot of clicks and you want to see what else you can do. You can increase that budget, decrease it, all depends on the success that you're looking for and how much you have to spend, honestly. The way it works with Google and Bing is the more you spend, the more you're going to get. Because if you have a small budget and once you've had enough people click your ads that day and your budget runs out, your ads won't show up anymore. So we kind of recommend as a basis around $60 a day for pay-per-click campaigns, and that is because that is the threshold that we've seen be successful for people. Anyone above that, they're getting a lot of leads out of those ads, and anyone below it, it's not as successful. So there are different things you can advertise on, just like with social media, that can be beneficial to your brand and your website. You can target people searching your name or your competitors. we really recommend this because a lot of dealership owners, they want to steal leads away from their competition, and this is a great way to do it. It's perfectly legal. You can't use your competitor's name in your ads, but what you can do is if somebody types in dealership X, but you want your ad to show up, you target that keyword and your ads show up and they click your ad. So it's been very effective. We recommend it to every dealer that we work with. Other areas you can advertise on are the brands that you carry, of course, the types of trailers that you have, whether it's cargo, utility, anything like that. And then parts and service we've had a lot of success with too, because those are things that people, when they search for them, they kind of want help immediately. So we see a lot of phone calls come out of those ads, and they're really effective, especially if you offer mobile service. People are searching those from their phone, and they're wanting help right away. And like I said before, geography, you can also target people searching for trailers in Houston, Texas, or just Texas as a whole. You can really have it target whatever you want, just depends on the audience you're trying to reach. Now, as far as building a pay-per-click campaign, it is a pretty extensive process, but the way it's broken down is kind of a pyramid system. So at the top, you have your account, and underneath that, you have different campaigns. The campaigns you want to set up basically to mimic how your website looks. So if your website is set up with, new trailers, used trailers, service, parts, those would be the names of your campaigns. And then underneath each of those, you're going to have ad groups. And you want those to be really specific because within an ad group, you're going to show ads for certain keywords. So for example, if you have new utility trailers, you want to have one ad group especially for that. So anyone searching any keywords having to do with that will see an ad that's talking about what they're searching for. You don't want somebody searching for new trailers and you're showing them ads advertising service. So you want to make sure that your ads are relevant, and the way to do that is by organizing your campaigns and your ad groups very specifically. You can change your ad text to whatever you want within Google's limits, of course. You can use punctuation. You can put call to actions in there. So there's a million different options. You kind of have to test what works, what doesn't, and with pay-per-click, you have to give the ads some time to run and see what works. You can't make changes every single day and expect to see results. So we recommend when you set up a campaign, you give it a couple weeks and see how it's going before making major changes. And then you also want to make sure that when people click the ads, they're going to the right page on your website. So we call those targeted landing pages. You don't want to send every single person to your homepage if they're searching for something really specific. You can send them to the specific unit that the ad is talking about. You can send them to your service page. Whatever is going to make most sense for them is what you should send them to. And Google actually takes that into account when they're analyzing your ads. They call it a quality score. So the quality of your ad depends on how well it's written, but also what landing page is linked to it. And then finally, conversion tracking is huge, and it really is what separates pay-per-click from other types of advertising, even billboards and newspaper ads, is that you can track every single time someone clicks your ad and converts. By converts, we mean they take an action. So it can either be phone calls, it can be emails, contact forms. You can set up a conversion for each type of lead, and Google will tell you how many conversions you get in a day, in a month, in a year, and that'll tell you how worthwhile your ads are. If you are spending $100 a day but you're not getting any conversions, there's something you need to change. But we usually aim for a cost per conversion of around $50, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, depending on what the unit is. But as long as you're making profit out of the advertising, you know that it's worthwhile. Now, once the campaigns are set up, you can't just leave them. You have to monitor them on For us, we do it on a daily basis. If you're doing it on your own, you might not have that time, but it's best to do it on a daily basis. Things that you look for when you are looking at your account are impressions, which means how many people saw your ads. It doesn't mean they clicked them, it just means they popped up on their phone screen or their computer. You also want to look at, of course, how many people clicked your ads, the cost that you're paying per click, which you get to choose in Google how much you're going to let people pay per click, but you're competing with all your competitors. So if somebody else says they're going to pay $2 for a click and you're only willing to pay $1, Google's going to show the $2 ad to people instead of yours. And that's called bidding, and that's how ads are chosen by Google, who comes first and second, which is called average position. It all depends on your bid. Average position is also something in Google that you can look at. So it'll tell you where on the page your ads are showing up. Obviously, the top of the page is number 1 and then number 2. And then generally 3 and 4 are actually at the bottom of the page. They used to let ads appear on the sides, but those actually don't show anymore for the most part. You obviously want to check your conversions, how many leads, how many phone calls, emails you're getting, and of course the cost of those, so that you're making sure that your budget makes sense for your business. And while it's good to check daily and weekly numbers, you also want to look at things as a whole. It can be easy to look at one day and say, oh my gosh, we didn't get any conversions, let's stop advertising. Well, as you know, I mean, there might be days where people are boycotting the internet because of politics or anything like that. So you can't just look at one day and say that something's not working. You have to look at the big picture. Now, I went over this a little bit about conversions, but there are different types that you can look at, and it really just depends on what's important to you. But it's good to use a combination. It's not good to just focus on one thing. Emails and phone calls obviously are going to be beneficial to you. Everybody wants phone calls because it gives your salespeople an opportunity to talk to people. But it's good if you can, have a nice variety of conversions coming in. Now, as far as the budgeting process, Google tends to drive better results than Bing. We found over time. They even, the ads are cheaper. There's more people searching on Google than Bing on a daily basis. And you want to spend enough to where you're getting results. But at the same time, you do want to leave some money to use in other forms of marketing, such as social media, because there are paid forms of social media which can be cheaper and can be more effective. So you want to make sure you're splitting your budget in a way that will get you the best results. We basically see a change in overall results when that Google budget is over $2,000, which if you do the math, generally that's over $75 a day. Anything under that is not very successful. Now, things that cost less in advertising, because Google doesn't rank each keyword or each target with the same price. So if you're advertising on your name, so your trailer dealer X, not a lot of people are going to be competing for your keyword, for that name, because they might not want to target you, or they might not even know about you. So targeting on your name tends to be cheaper than targeting really broad keywords such as trailers in Texas. There's a lot of people searching for things like that, so obviously the prices are going to be higher. So if you're looking for really cost-effective things to target, your name and competitors' names are always a great option, and then basically anything really specific. So specific models, floor plans, you're going to have less people searching for them, but they're going to cost you less, and those are generally the most qualified leads. Now, things that cost you more are going to be those really broad, generic terms, RV types, RV brands, big geographic areas like entire states, or even some really big cities. If you have the budget, it's good to target those things, and obviously there are people doing it because there is competition. But if you don't have a big budget, you might be exhausting your budget by trying to get those really broad terms, and you might want to focus in on some more specific keywords. This is a case study that we did for an RV dealer called Palm RV in Fort Myers. They had a pay-per-click campaign before they came to us, but they weren't getting out of it as much as they wanted to. So they really wanted to increase their number of leads. They wanted to increase their reach because they have customers nationwide, and they wanted to just increase their overall performance of online marketing. What we did for them was we actually took in their old pay-per-click account and revamped it, pretty much reorganized the entire thing. And we created these campaigns, basically the same types of campaigns that I told you about. They're targeting their name and competitors, which they're very successful at. Consignments are a huge selling point for them, and that's not true for every dealership, so that really separates them from other people. And of course, their service and brands and general terms as well, because they do spend quite a bit of money on a daily basis. So the results from this campaign have been great. They do have a large budget of over $100 a day, but they're getting a lot of money, a lot of leads out of it. And of course, selling one RV basically can pay for their advertising for the month. So they've received in the last 7 months almost 700 leads through forms and phone calls. Their overall click-through rate, which means every time somebody sees an ad, 9% of the time people will click on it. And that's a really good click-through rate. Anything over 5% is excellent. Conversion rate means every time somebody clicks an ad, 2% of the time somebody's actually converting. So they're calling, they're sending a form, and that's also a really, 2.39% is a great number. And in total, they've had almost 30,000 visits to their website just from their pay-per-click ads, which means that without this advertising, that's 30,000 people essentially that they could have never seen their website or been introduced to their brand. So that does show the importance of what pay-per-click can do for somebody. So now I'm going to transition to social media, which is kind of my baby. I do a lot more social media than pay-per-click, just kind of because I like it more. Social media is something that a lot of people might be scared of who haven't used it before, but it's actually a great marketing tool. It's not just for political rants and posting pictures. It's actually a great marketing tool, and it's very cost effective. So there are some downsides to using social media. It does take a lot of time. You really have to dedicate a certain amount of time each day to checking on your Facebook pages, checking notifications, responding to people, and it's a lot of work. However, the benefits definitely outweigh the cons in this case. Social media can really help you build credibility because, I don't know if you guys do it, but when I hear about a new restaurant or a car dealership or anything like that, first thing I do is look them up on the internet and see, what other people think about them, what reviews they have, how many people like their page, because people take that into consideration. So if if you have a Facebook page with lots of happy customers on it, leaving you great comments, that's going to go a long way in trying to reach new people. And another great thing about social media that is huge is Google actually, when they index your site, and they go through the whole thing and give it a ranking, so help it show up better in search engines. They actually take into account how much website traffic you get and how much engagement your website gets. Using social media to get more people to your website and get more people talking about your website can make a really big difference when it comes to Google's indexing. And the other great thing that I particularly love about social media is that the clicks tend to be a lot cheaper than they are on Google and Bing. Now, the leads on Google and Bing might be a little more qualified, which could be, the reason that you might be spending $1.50 or $2 per click or $5 per click, whereas on Facebook, I've had some dealers that are only spending about 10 cents per click. So it all depends. Like I said, it's always good to have a mix of both. Now, I mentioned this earlier. I think that Facebook and Google should be mandatory for every dealer. If you don't have one already, or even if you do have a Facebook, you might not be using it to the best of its abilities and using it in the most effective way possible. Before you start to just jump on every social media platform, I recommend getting really good at Facebook first. And Google Plus, of course, is considered social media. It's kind of Google's business side of things, and not a lot of people are actually looking at your Google Plus page, but it does help with your Google search rankings to post content to your Google Plus page every once in a while, at least twice a week. And blogs are another thing that are very time consuming, if you're trying to do them on your own, but they're a great way to really connect with your customers and share information that may be hard to share in a Facebook ad or a Google ad, and give them some helpful information, and it establishes you as a resource for them. So you're not just somebody they go to buy a trailer, you're somebody they go to for advice and for tips and for safety knowledge. So having a blog, if you can do it, is always a great thing. Just like with pay-per-click, you always want to have a strategy. You never want to go into a marketing campaign blindly. So there are 4 things with social media campaigns that are required, and the first 2 are involved with content. So content means, what are you putting out there for people to see? So before you start just posting on your Facebook, you want to have a plan of what you're going to be posting about each month. And you actually want to create a schedule of what specific posts you're going to do. So are you going to advertise your trailers? New trailer just arrived. This is the price. These are some of the features. Or are you going to post about, happy customers? This is so, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith just bought this new trailer, and you post a picture of them. All those things are great, but you don't want to leave it to chance, because most of the time, if you try to do that and say, oh yeah, I'll post every Wednesday, or I'll post every couple of days, you might forget about it. So you always want to have it scheduled out. You can use the same type of posts on multiple platforms such as Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but you might have to modify them a little bit, because Twitter it has a maximum amount of characters that you can use. Instagram, for example, you can't include links, clickable links in your caption, so you might have to modify them slightly, but you can post similar content on all those pages. Now, ideas for content. Of course, the purpose of advertising is to get sales, but you don't want to only post about units for sale, because people who are followers of your page, they might get tired of seeing the same looking post over and over again. Even if it's a new trailer, they're going to get tired of it. It's going to seem salesy to them. So you want to incorporate different types of posts. Tips and tricks are a great thing to include, because people love to share those with their friends. If you have any special events or promotions going on, of course you want to let people know about those. You can feature new brands that you get in stock or new products if you have parts and service. Happy customer photos, I push that a lot. It shows great credibility, and it helps you create that loyalty that we talked about. Of course, you have to get permission from your customers to put them on the internet, but usually people are happy to do it. So after you get a sale, take a picture of the customer, say, can I take a picture of you in front of the unit? If they don't want you to use their name in the post, you don't have to, but you can say, Mr. Johnson just bought his new trailer, and post the picture, and generally people are really happy to see that, and they'll share it with their friends as well. And then testimonials, of course, are a great thing. We encourage people to leave reviews on Facebook and Google, but if somebody wants to write you a nice long testimonial, even if it's in a letter, you can type it up, put it on your website, put it on your social media, and that means a lot to people. Of course, specials and events. You should always post about events and create actual events within Facebook for that. And then it's also good to talk about your staff. People like to put a face to a name if they've talked to someone on the phone, or if it's the service department. It just makes you seem more personable. And of course, lifestyle posts are also important, just to give your page a little mix and a little variety, so it's not always trying to sell something to somebody. So as far as making sure that you always have content to put, you should keep a file of things, whether it's a Word document or a spreadsheet, ideas that you have of things you might want to post, because you can't post everything all at once, and you shouldn't, so you should make sure that you have things on hand so you can space them out. And get those pictures of the customers and those quotes from them right when they're there, and then you can always use them later. You don't have to post everything that day. Like I said, it's good to keep a calendar and stick to it, and you always want to include some fun posts in there so you're not always selling. There are some automation tools that let you schedule posts in advance. So for example, in Facebook, you can create a post and hit publish, and it'll publish it right away. Or you can hit schedule and pick a time in the future and a day that you can do it. Facebook is really easy to use. For Twitter and Google Plus and Instagram, there are some other tools that are needed to do the scheduling. You can't do it directly through them. But the tools are pretty easy for the most part. Some of them are free, some of them aren't, but I recommend always using an automation tool so you don't have to rely on yourself to log in and publish posts every single day, because that can be time consuming. Engagement on social media is huge. Having a social media page without engagement is pretty much worthless. The point of it is that you can interact with your customers instantly. So you want to have someone who can check your notifications on your social media pages at least once in the morning, once in the evening, twice a day, bare minimum. Because if people are commenting and they're sending you messages, they don't expect to hear back in a week. They want to hear back now. That's kind of the time we live in now, is that people want immediate responses, especially on social media. So if you're checking it daily, you can at least go on. If it's a long question that they're asking and you can't answer it on social media, you can say, please just give us a call. Now, with reviews, you always want to respond to good and bad reviews. And I know this is something that a lot of dealerships struggle with, and everybody gets bad reviews. No matter how great you are, there's always going to be that one crazy guy who leaves a bad review that had nothing to do with the situation. But if you respond to them in a calm, collective way and kind of explain the situation, they might not care, but other customers looking at that review will say, wow, that company, they handled this, they know what they're talking about, they're not bad people. And positive reviews, you might think that you don't have to respond to because they're happy. But it's always good to thank them. They took the time to leave your review. So, if they leave you something, I had a great experience, I love my new trailer, you say, thank you so much. Really appreciate you as a customer. Come back and see us anytime. That's kind of my go-to. If there is negative feedback, you don't want to get into a big argument online about it. You want to address the situation. If you were at fault, you can apologize and offer to fix it, whether through a discount or giving money back or having them come in for free service. You got to take responsibility for your actions. We see some dealers sometimes, we tell them, hey, you got this review about your service, and they've got a few bad reviews about their service, and they say, well, that's not true, our service is great. The reality is, if you're getting a lot of people talking about the same problem, you might just at least want to look into it and talk to your team about it. Like I said before, that social interaction really can help your rankings on Google. This is a case study for an RV dealer and trailer dealer called Crossroads Trailer Sales in New Jersey that I've personally worked on. We took them over a long time ago and basically wanted to help increase their traffic and engagement on their Facebook page and their website. So things that we did, we created that content schedule for them. We said we would feature their units, we would advertise their sales, promote the dealership as a whole, promote things going around in their area in New Jersey, local events. We posted about holidays, all of them, even the National Margarita Day like it is today. Maybe not alcohol, but Valentine's Day, any of those things. People like to see that stuff. And then we also run a blog for them, so we share those blogs on Facebook and their other social media accounts. So what we use for them, we primarily use Facebook. We do both organic and boosted. So organic means it's the free post, regular Facebook post is free. Boosted means that we are doing paid ads on Facebook. So for those, we're spending about $5 a day, which comes out to about $150 to $200 a month. That's a range there because if they have special events, sometimes we put a little bit more money into it. We also use Instagram for them, which we've created a really nice following there. Twitter as well, and Google+, which you should always have. So out of this campaign in the last year, we were able to increase their impressions on their Facebook page. So people that see their page, that increased by 87%. Now their traffic their traffic on their website that came from social media actually increased by 823%. That's not a typo. Before we started doing the paid ads, they had a Facebook, they had a few followers, but they really weren't getting any engagement. They weren't including any links to their website in their posts. So nobody was really, they might look at the page, but nobody's interacting, nobody's visiting the website. It really wasn't benefiting them. So now we see a good percentage, 7% of their website traffic comes from Facebook and Instagram as well. So I have some do's and don'ts when it comes to Facebook advertising. And when I say advertising, I'm talking about not just the paid posts, but also the organic ones. So when you're doing paid posts on Facebook, you can set up who you want to target, just like Google. You can target people, only men, only females, both. You can target certain ages, certain locations. So you want to make sure that you're targeting the right people. Generally, most dealerships have a good idea of where their customers come from, what they look like, what language they speak. So you don't want to waste your money pushing ads out to people in other countries or in California if you're in Florida, and if they're not going to come see you and buy from you, it's probably not a good way to spend your money. You want to use different ad formats. So that means you can include videos sometimes, do pictures, do slideshows. You just want to mix it up so that people aren't seeing the same post over and over and getting tired of your page. You also want, just like if you're doing newspaper advertising or anything, you want eye-catching headlines. Sometimes we use all caps lock. You don't want to do the whole post all caps lock, but for headlines sometimes it's good. It draws attention. If you're offering a great price or a great deal, it's always good to have that in the headline, or whatever you think is going to be the most enticing thing to get people to continue reading your post, visiting the page, and visiting your website. There's a star next to use good photos because it is that important. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when I try to create Facebook content for a dealership and all I have to work with are blurry photos or no photos at all. It's really hard to make your dealership and make your units look appealing without having good photos. So we've written a bunch of blogs of tips on how to take good photos as far as lighting, what kind of cameras to use. But honestly, you can use a phone camera and still take some great photos if that's your only option. But you might want to invest in a real camera as well. The next one is huge. So call to action and links. That's one thing we see in a lot of Facebook pages that we inherit is that they're posting all the time. They're posting a few times a week, but they don't put any links in their posts. So they're not saying, hey, we have this great trailer. Here's where you can go see it on our website. That's huge. So you're giving people the opportunity to take the next step. And that's what a call to action does too, is it allows people to, you're giving them the information they need. So call us at phone, and you put your phone number. It makes it easy for people. That's the whole point of it, is to make it easy so they don't have to then, Google the name of your dealership and find a phone number. It's right there in front of them. So the point is to get them to take action from your post and not just look at it and move on and forget. As far as the advertising, like I said, we recommend spending at least $5 a day. In a perfect world, I would say you should spend at least $10 a day. That way you can, advertise multiple things at once, because on Facebook, the minimum daily budget is $5 a day for each ad. And then, of course, you want to look at your results. You don't just want to let their ads run and not ever look at, what they're doing, who's clicking on them. Facebook has an insights tab that lets you see who your fans are, what cities they're in, what language they speak, how old they are and everything like that. So it's good to look at that information and see, make sure you're reaching the right people, not leaving anybody out, and that your ads are effective. Now, some don'ts with Facebook advertising is to advertise to everyone in the world. There's a lot of people on Facebook. Not everyone is probably interested in buying a trailer. That's just the reality of it. So you don't want to have a really big audience just because, oh yeah, it'll show to 1 million people a day. Well, that's great, but you might be paying for some clicks that you don't want. You also don't want to target too small of a group. Just because most of your customers are men doesn't mean that you shouldn't maybe show your ads to women, or maybe most of your customers are older than 50. You might want to still make that range, give some leeway, because the point is to also try and attract new customers and potentially a new demographic. You don't want to be repetitive or predictable, and that kind of goes back to having some variety in your posts. And you don't want to just post unit after unit after unit without including some fun stuff, some lifestyle, some stuff about your sales team, anything like that. You don't want to be overly salesy, like those car dealership ads where they're screaming at you the whole time. If you do an all caps lock Facebook post, that's kind of the same thing. We try to stay away from that. You don't want to forget details as far as, if there's certain aspects of your trailers that people are interested in, whether it's, they come with LED lights or anything like that, you want to make sure you include those things that are going to be important to your customers. You always want to look at your competition, but you don't want to copy what they're doing. The point of your Facebook page or your website is to establish your brand and to say, this is what makes us different. So you can look at your competitors for ideas, especially, oh, wow, they did a great promotion about the event they're having. Okay, well, take that and then make it your own. You don't want to copy people. It's not going to look good on your dealership, and it really won't get you anywhere if somebody's already doing it. Now, like I said, with customer loyalty, managing your reputation is really huge, and this is what I was saying about checking for reviews, and I'm clearly not the only one. 81% of shoppers do online research before they consider going anywhere or making a purchase. I do it before I go to a restaurant. And just because there's one bad review on your Facebook or your Google, it doesn't mean that people aren't going to come. You want to keep those reviews on there and, like I said, respond to them. But people look at reviews as a whole. They look at reputation as a whole, not what one person might have said. In order to make sure you have a good reputation, though, you do want to, you got to put effort into it. You got to take care of your customers first and foremost at your dealership. Your service team, your sales team, everybody has to, be on board and make sure that they're representing your brand the way you want them to. Another thing you want to do is encourage people to review you. A lot of times people only leave reviews when they're angry, and that's not because they didn't like you, but sometimes people, they'll leave and they're happy, but they're not going to go on and write a review on Facebook. They'll probably forget about it. So when they're at your dealership, or if they comment on your Facebook and say, oh, I had a great time, say, hey, thank you so much. Can you leave us a review? You do not get reviews if you don't ask for them. I ask for them for people all the time, and I would say 80% of the time they leave the review. They're happy to do it, and it really does help when other people visit your page to see a lot of great reviews. We talked about bad reviews before. You want to look at them with a grain of salt. But if there is some truth into what they're saying, you obviously need to address it with your team, admit your mistakes, and don't start, those long arguments. You don't want to be putting cuss words out there. Always think before you type, because when it's on the internet, it's on there forever, and it can come back to haunt you. And you always want to, like I said, thank people when they do leave you a good review. Now, there are different ways to manage your social media. One option is to do it yourself, whether you have a person at your dealership or you as the owner want to do it yourself. It's possible, but it does take a lot of time. I mean, I spend a full work week just doing social media for people, and it takes up all my time. So it can be hard to do it. It's hard to stay up to all the updates and changes that Facebook goes through on a daily basis, it seems, Google as well. And it's hard to become an expert in it when you're having to handle 15 other things at your dealership. So it can be done, but you really have to dedicate a lot of time to it. Sometimes there are companies that will offer to do, the PPC or social media for you, and it comes at a cost. However, if you think, you're going to spend a certain amount of money and you're doing the advertising yourself, you might be throwing that money down the drain if you're not an expert at it or if you're not executing it properly. So sometimes it is worthwhile to pay somebody else to do it because you are going to get more for your money in terms of advertising. So other option other than doing it yourself is to hire an agency. There are tons of great agencies out there, especially with PPC, the pay-per-click. Social media is something that especially a lot of younger people have become good at, but pay-per-click is very, very advanced and very specific, and it does take an expert, honestly, to run those sort of things. When you are looking at an agency, you do have to be wary of people that you are reaching out to you and maybe just want your money. They have to understand the industry that you're in and your company, which they should always have a long meeting with you, or whether it's in person or on the phone, to really get a good grasp of what you're about, what your brand is about, so that they know what ads to put out and what to convey to your customers through your advertising on the internet. You should always, like you said, with reviews, always check up on any agency that's offering to work with you. They should always be Google and Bing certified, which means that their experts have taken these tests on Google and Bing that we have taken to solidify that you know what you're doing. And you should always get an agency who's going to work on a per hour basis. There are some agencies that say they will bill you a percentage of what you spend. So for example, they're going to say you're going to spend $1,000 or $2,000 a month on Google, and we're going to get a percentage of that. The problem is you don't know how much of that money they're spending on Google and how much of that money they're keeping for themselves. If you work with an agency who charges on a per hour basis, you're guaranteeing that they're going to spend 6 hours a month on your advertising, and then your Google ads and your Facebook ads are just get charged directly to your credit card. So you know exactly what you're spending for the advertising, and then you know what you're spending on the agency's management of your campaign. Now the second option is honestly the best. It is basically to collaborate with your agency. It's really hard to run effective advertising for a dealership if they're not willing to work with you. It's hard to really come up with content that makes the most sense and advertise for events if the people at the dealership are not communicating with you. So if you are going to work with an agency, you want to make sure you guys have a good open communication system. You're bouncing ideas back and forth. They're sending you, the content that they're going to post, and you're approving it. You're sending them pictures of customers so that they can post them. Basically, you just want to be communicating at all times, especially if you're getting new units in or new brands. You have to let your agency know that so that they can push those things on Google and on Facebook, because otherwise, we as an agency, we have no idea of knowing what, what new items you might have coming in. So having that collaborative relationship is honestly the best way you get the most for your money. Your ads will be the most effective, and it's beneficial to both parties. It makes things go a lot smoother. That is the end. I know Chad mentioned I will take questions, if you type them in, or we can unmute you. I'm seeing one question pop up right now. Okay. Now this is our phone number. If you want to email us, I can provide you with that as well. Our email is sales@netsourcemedia.com. And then, of course, those are our Facebook and Twitter pages and website, which you can view as well. Somebody asked if we will have notes available. Yes, we can send notes out. If you want to send your email, or we can access your email through the dashboard, we'll be happy to send that out to the attendees. Okay, and let's see. We have a question: what times of day are best for Facebook? So it does depend on what you're advertising, but in general, Facebook users are most often online in the morning, in the middle of the day, at lunchtime, and in the evenings. If you're advertising to a lot of different time zones, you do have to take that into consideration. But generally, I like posting new posts on a daily basis, either around 9 o'clock in the morning, lunchtime, like 12 o'clock or 1, and then the biggest one is after work. So when people get off around 5:30 or 6, they're checking their phones and sitting in traffic maybe. That's a great time to post, and people tend to really interact more at that time. More requests to send the notes, so we will definitely do that for you guys. I will, let's see. I'm going to unmute you guys too if you want to speak your questions out loud. Chad, I might need your help with that one.
Sure, I can. So what I think, if people, I'm just going to look and see if there's anyone that has
muted.
I think if we unmute everybody at all at once, it might get a little bit crazy. But if we go individually, and it depends on if they see, but there's a Mark. Mark, do you have any questions on this? Oh, self-muted. Yeah, that looks like most people are looking in through either their computer, which makes it kind of tough to do. Richard, any questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, thanks. So there's about 40 people on here, but most of them listening through their computers, and unless they have a headset on, that doesn't work generally very well. But how about Roxy, any questions for you?
No, thank you.
All right. I think, honestly, Jesse, those are the people who are listening in on the phone. So I think you might have them all. Oh. Okay, I think it looks like maybe, Jesse, you've muted yourself now, so I don't know if you have anything else, but you might want to unmute yourself if you did. I can't undo it. All right, well, on behalf of Jesse, who's muted, let me just say thanks again for everybody who came to this webinar. Thanks for your time. I'd really encourage you to follow up. I did notice while they did not do any self-promotion there were a few times in there where I thought, boy, does that sound really like a lot of work, and I wish I could call Jesse to help me. So I believe that that's probably an option for most of you if you'd like to do that. She does have her contact information on there, her website, and I'd encourage you to follow up with her if you have any of that. I guess have a wonderful day.